Unseen War, Black Magic from Babylon to the Modern World. There is something that can destroy your marriage, your health, your mind, and your entire life, and you will never see it coming. It does not use weapons, it does not leave fingerprints. It operates in a world you cannot see through creatures you were taught to fear since childhood. It is called Seher, black magic, and according to the Quran, according to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, according to 14 centuries of Islamic scholarship, it is absolutely real. Tonight, we are going to take you into the darkest corners of the unseen world. What you are about to learn will terrify you. But it may also save your life. Close your eyes and imagine a city built from mud bricks. The air is thick with the smell of dust and incense. It is the city of Babylon, over 4,000 years ago. This is not a fairy tale. This is the beginning of our story. In the ruins of this ancient place, archaeologists found something chilling. They dug up small clay tablets. On these tablets, written in the language called cuneiform, were thousands of spells. There were spells to curse your neighbor, spells to ruin a rival's business, spells to cause sickness and death. Imagine holding one of these tablets in your hand. You can feel the weight of the curse pressed into the clay. This was not for entertainment. This was a real weapon used in a real war that no one could see. And this is only the beginning. Across the ancient world, from Rome to Greece to Egypt, people have been finding these cursed objects. They are called curse tablets, or defixiones. Scholars have catalogued over 1,600 of them. People would write the name of their enemy on a piece of lead. They would then roll it up, pierce it with a nail, and bury it in a grave or a well. They believed this would summon the spirits of the dead to carry out their revenge. Think about that for a moment. For thousands of years, human beings have believed in a power that can reach through the veil of death. They believed it so strongly, they left physical proof for us to find. Now, travel with me to the banks of the Nile River to ancient Egypt. Here, the obsession with the unseen world was carved into the walls of pyramids and written on papyrus scrolls. The most famous book is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but that title is a mistake. The Egyptians called it the Book of Coming Forth by Day. It was not a book of stories, it was a manual. It contained precise spells and incantations to control the dead, to protect the soul in the afterlife, and to command supernatural forces. Imagine a priest in a dark chamber reciting these words by flickering torchlight. He was not performing a play, he was conducting what he believed was real spiritual surgery. In 2004, researchers at the University of Copenhagen decoded an ancient Egyptian handbook of spells. This book, written in Coptic script on parchment, is nearly 1,300 years old. It contains love spells, curses to cause nightmares, and detailed instructions for exorcisms. One spell commands a demon to bring a woman to a man using her hair and a piece of her clothing. Another spell invokes a series of powerful names to force a demon to obey. This book was not hidden away. It was used. It was a working tool for a practicing sorcerer. This is the dark truth. Magic was an industry, and here is where it gets worse. Journey now to the sands of the Middle East, to the land of Mesopotamia. Here, the people lived in constant fear. They believed the world was crowded with invisible demons and evil spirits that caused every disease and misfortune. Their only defense was magic. They had special priests called Ashipu, the sorcerer doctors. If you fell ill, they did not just give you medicine, They performed elaborate rituals to drive out the demon they believed was clinging to your body. For them, magic was not a choice. It was a matter of survival in a terrifying, invisible war. Now hold that thought. We have seen the clay tablets. We have read the ancient spells. We have walked with the people who lived and died by this knowledge. And here is the breathtaking moment. The Quran, revealed over 1,400 years ago, confirms all of it. It does not dismiss it as superstition. It looks directly at this ancient dark practice and tells us exactly what it is. In the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, in verse 102, Allah tells us a story that will change how you see everything. He tells us about two angels, Harut and Marut. They were sent down to the city of Babylon. Remember that city of mud bricks and clay curses. They were sent as it estimated. They taught people sorcery. But listen closely to what the verse says. They always warned people first. They said, "We are only a trial, a test for you, so do not disbelieve." They gave the ultimate warning. But people learned from them anyway. They learned how to separate a husband from his wife. The Quran spells it out in the plainest language. This is not a metaphor for causing arguments. This is a specific, terrifying effect of a real dark art. It is a spiritual weapon designed to shatter the most sacred bond in human life, the bond of marriage. Every single major Islamic scholar who ever commented on this verse agreed on one terrifying point. Ibn Kathir, in his famous Tafsir, explains that the magic learned from these angels was real and effective. Al-Qurtubi, another giant of scholarship, details how this magic works through knots and spells. The great scholar Ibn Taymiyyah wrote entire treatises on the reality of magic and its connection to the jinn and devils. These were not naive men. They were the intellectual powerhouses of their age. They studied philosophy, medicine, and law, and they all reached the same conclusion. Black magic is real. It has real effects on real people. It causes real sickness, real hatred between families, and real ruin. The Arabic word for this is seher, and in the language of Islam, this word carries a weight that can crush a soul. Seher is not just a sin. In Islamic law, it is an act of kufr, disbelief. It is on the same level as leaving Islam entirely. Why? Because it is the ultimate betrayal. It is a person turning away from Allah, the all-powerful, and instead seeking help and power from the devils and the forces of evil. You are cutting a deal with the enemy in the unseen war. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made this crystal clear. He said, "Avoid the 7 deadly sins." And what did he list first? Shirk, which is worshipping something other than Allah. And what did he list immediately after that? Seher, black magic. Think about the company it keeps. The worst sin you can commit is to associate partners with Allah. The second worst is to practice seher. That is how serious this is. It is not a parlor trick. It is a highway to hell. This was not just a warning, it was a law. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph of Islam, a man known for his fierce justice, sent written orders to every province under his rule. The order was simple: kill every sorcerer and sorceress. History records that during his rule, at least 3 practitioners of seher were executed. This was the standard. The founders of the major schools of Islamic law, the imams whose opinions guide millions to this day, they all agreed. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, their verdict was unanimous. The punishment for a practitioner of seher, when the evidence is clear, is death. They did not take this lightly. They understood that allowing Seher to spread was like allowing a spiritual plague to infect the entire community. So let us pause here and look at what we have found. We started in the dust of Babylon with cursed clay. We saw the spellbooks of Egypt and the demon lists of Mesopotamia. We saw that for ancient humanity, this was a brutal, terrifying reality. Then the Quran confirmed it, not as a myth, but as a historical fact and a present danger. Then the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his companions, and the greatest scholars of Islam, all declared it to be one of the worst possible crimes against God and humanity. This is a chain of evidence stretching back over 4,000 years. And this is only part one. You have just seen the crime scene. But the question now is, how does it actually work? Who are the creatures that carry out these dark commands? And what is the secret war being fought in the darkness around you right now? That is where we must go next. So, how does it actually work? Let us pull back the curtain on the mechanics of darkness. The sorcerer, called a sahir in Arabic, stands alone in his desire for power. But he is never truly alone. He cannot weave spells from nothing. He needs allies, and those allies do not come from this world. They come from the unseen realm, from the world of the jinn. Specifically, he seeks out the shayateen, the evil ones among the jinn, the devils. Think of it as a transaction, a terrible bargain made in the shadows. The sorcerer offers something, and the devil provides a service. But the price is never gold or silver. The price is always, without exception, blasphemy against Allah. The more you hate God, the more power they give you. This is the foundational truth of black magic in Islamic belief. It is a trade of faith for forbidden force. Now, let us see what that trade looks like in gruesome detail. The great scholar Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, in his famous book called Prophetic Medicine, documented exactly what sorcerers must do to earn the devil's service. He described acts so vile they are difficult to even speak about. These acts are designed to show utter contempt for the divine. The sorcerer takes the holy words of the Quran, the very speech of God, and he writes them backwards. He defiles the scripture by writing it in filthy substances like blood or urine. He desecrates the Quran by stepping on it, or by throwing it into dirty places like latrines. He sacrifices animals, but not in the name of Allah. He sacrifices them to the devils themselves, to these unseen entities. He goes to graveyards in the dead of night, among the silent tombs, and he performs rituals there. He prays to the devils instead of to Allah. He calls upon them, he honors them, he begs them for help. Every act is a calculated insult to the Creator. The logic is perverse but clear. The more disgusting and blasphemous the act, the more powerful the jinn that answers the call. It is a competition in evil. The sorcerer proves his loyalty to the darkness by betraying the light. And this is only the beginning. Once the deal is sealed, the jinn becomes a servant of the sorcerer, but it is a service built on lies. The jinn carries out the commands. It whispers into the minds of the victims. It manipulates their perceptions. It can twist reality in small, cruel ways. Islamic scholars, over centuries, have documented many specific types of seher, or black magic. Each type targets a different aspect of human life. There is seher at tafriq, the separation magic. This is the magic that destroys marriages and tears families apart. The Quran specifically mentions this in chapter 2, verse 102. It says that the devils taught people what could separate a man from his wife. Imagine a happy home filled with love suddenly crumbling for no reason. The husband and wife begin to argue over nothing. They feel a coldness where there was once warmth. They see hatred in each other's eyes where there was once affection. This is the work of separation magic, a slow poison injected into the heart of a family. Then there is Seher al-Mahabba, the love magic. This is not about true love, it is about obsession and possession. It makes someone obsessed with another person against their own will. It clouds their mind with unnatural desire, trapping them in an emotional prison. The victim cannot think straight. They lose their free will, becoming a slave to feelings they did not choose. Another terrifying type is Sihr al-Junun, the madness magic. This magic causes mental illness, hallucinations, and erratic behavior. The victim might see things that are not there. They might hear voices that no one else can hear. They might act in ways that are completely out of character, as if taken over by a force they cannot control. Families watch in horror as a loved one descends into a private hell, and doctors find no medical cause. There is also Seher al-Marad, the sickness magic. This causes unexplained illnesses that no doctor can diagnose. The victim experiences constant pain or weakness or strange symptoms that baffle medical science. Tests come back normal, but the person is clearly suffering. It is a physical attack from the unseen world. Seher al-Kumul is the lethargy magic. It makes a person lose all motivation, become deeply depressed, and withdraw from life. They stop praying, they stop working, they stop caring. They lie in bed for days, overwhelmed by a fog of despair that has no obvious source. Finally, there is Seher al-Hawatif, the magic of terrifying nightmares and voices. The victim is haunted in their sleep by dreadful dreams. They wake up screaming, drenched in sweat. And even when awake, they hear whispers, they hear footsteps, they hear their name called by no one. It is a relentless assault on their peace and sanity. But here is where it gets worse. Who are these jinn that do all this? To understand them, we must look at a story from the Quran, the story of Prophet Sulaiman, peace be upon him. Allah gave Prophet Sulaiman a unique authority over the jinn. The Quran tells us that the jinn built grand buildings for him. They dived into the sea to bring him treasures. They worked under his command like a mighty, unseen workforce. They were powerful, but they were not free. They were subject to his rule by the permission of God. Now, consider the moment of Prophet Sulaiman's death. The Quran describes that he died while leaning on his staff. The jinn, busy with their labor, did not even know he was dead. They kept working, thinking he was still alive and watching them. They continued their toil for days, perhaps for months. Then a tiny creature, a termite, began to eat through the wooden staff. It ate and ate until the staff became weak. Finally, the staff broke and Prophet Sulaiman's body collapsed to the ground. Only then did the jinn realize the truth. They'd be working for nothing. They'd been serving a king who was already gone. The Quran says, and this is crucial, if they had known the unseen, they would not have stayed in humiliating punishment. This single sentence reveals everything. The jinn are powerful. They can build, they can dive, they can serve sorcerers. But they do not know the future. They do not know the unseen. They are not all-knowing. Only Allah knows what is hidden. This means the jinn that serve a sorcerer are guessing, they are improvising. They are limited, they can cause harm, but they cannot see the ultimate consequences of their actions. They are themselves trapped in a system they do not fully understand. Think about what this means for the sorcerer's deal. The sorcerer believes he has bought a powerful servant. But that servant is blind to the future. That servant is itself a prisoner of the divine order. The jinn may boast and promise great things, but they are ultimately weak before the knowledge of Allah. They operate in the dark, just like the sorcerer. They feed on blasphemy and despair, but they cannot create anything truly new. They can only corrupt what already exists. They can twist love into obsession. They can turn health into sickness. They can change peace into terror. But they cannot create love or health or peace from nothing. That power belongs to God alone. And this is only the beginning of understanding the unseen war. Now, let us consider the scale of this operation. When a sorcerer performs his rituals in a graveyard at night, what is really happening? Picture the scene. The moon is hidden behind clouds. The air is cold and still. The only sounds are the rustle of dead leaves and the sorcerer's muttered invocations to the devils. He has brought with him items of defilement. He takes a copy of the Quran and he deliberately places it on the dirty ground. He takes a knife and sacrifices a black chicken, calling out the name of a devil instead of the name of Allah. He writes verses from the Quran using his own blood, mixing the sacred with the profane. With each act, he is sending a signal into the darkness. He is announcing his rebellion, and from the shadows the shayateen gather. They are drawn to this display of hatred like flies to rot. They see a human soul willingly turning away from the light, and they offer their services. They whisper to him, promising him control over others, promising him wealth, promising him revenge. But every promise is a lie wrapped in a half-truth. The jinn will indeed try to carry out his commands. They will try to make a husband leave his wife. They will try to make a person fall ill. But they do not do this out of loyalty. They do it because they hate humanity. They envy humans. They want to see us suffer. They want to lead us astray, just as they themselves are astray. The sorcerer thinks he is the master, but he is just another tool in the devil's ancient campaign against the children of Adam. Islamic history is filled with accounts of these encounters. Scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah and Al-Ghazali wrote extensively about the reality of jinn and magic. They collected stories from people who had been afflicted and from repentant sorcerers who revealed the secrets of their trade. These are not myths. They are recorded testimonies treated with seriousness by some of the greatest minds in Islamic civilization. The rituals are consistent across time and place. Whether in the deserts of Arabia or the cities of the medieval world, the pattern is the same. Blasphemy for power, hatred for control, but the power is always an illusion. The control is always temporary, because the jinn themselves are subject to a higher law. They cannot act without permission. They cannot enter a heart that is firmly filled with the remembrance of Allah. They flee from the recitation of the Quran. They are weakened by prayer and charity. The sorcerer, in his pride, forgets this. He thinks he has found a shortcut to dominance, but he has only taken a detour into his own destruction. He has sold his afterlife for a few moments of influence in this life. And the jinn, his supposed allies, will abandon him the moment he becomes useless to them. They will leave him empty, cursed, and alone. But what about the victims? How does it feel to be under the attack of Seher? Imagine waking up every morning with a heavy weight on your chest. You try to pray, but your mind wanders to dark and ugly thoughts. You look at your spouse, whom you once loved, and you feel a sudden, irrational rage. You hear whispers in the quiet of your room, telling you that you are worthless, that no one loves you, that you should give up. You suffer from nightmares so vivid They feel more real than your waking life. You see distorted faces in the shadows. You feel a constant sense of being watched. Your body aches with pains that move from place to place, eluding every doctor's diagnosis. You are tired all the time, so tired that even getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. This is the reality of black magic for the victim. It is a multi-front assault on the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul. And it is all orchestrated by an unseen enemy, a jinn, following the orders of a human who wished you harm. But here is where it gets worse. The jinn do not just stop at carrying out orders. They often add their own cruelty to the mix. They enjoy the suffering. They might torment the victim beyond what the sorcerer requested. They might linger long after the spell was meant to end. They might create new fears, new obsessions, new pains. Because their ultimate goal is not to serve the sorcerer. Their ultimate goal is to spread corruption and disbelief. Every moment of despair they cause in a believer is a victory for them. So, we have seen the mechanism. The sorcerer makes a blasphemous deal. The evil jinn accept the offer. They attack the victim in specific, terrible ways. And all of this happens in a world just beyond our sight, a world parallel to our own. But this raises a new and even more urgent question. If this unseen war is real, and if the enemies are this cunning, how can anyone possibly be safe? What weapons do we have to fight back? That is the secret we must uncover next. So how can anyone possibly be safe? What weapons do we have to fight back? The answer to that question, the ultimate proof of this war, does not come from a dusty old book or a whispered rumor. It comes from the life of the man at the very heart of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad himself. And what happened to him is the clearest, most undeniable evidence that black magic is a terrifying reality. This is the story you need to hear. Picture this. It is the year 626 in the city of Medina. The Prophet is in his home, but he is not well. He feels a deep, unsettling sickness that the doctors cannot explain. He forgets things. He becomes confused, thinking he has done something or been somewhere when he has not. His energy drains away. His family is worried. His companions are concerned. This goes on for days, then weeks. No physical cause can be found. Now imagine a man named Labid ibn al-Asam. He is from the Jewish tribe of Banu Zuraik. He is a practitioner of the dark arts. He wants to harm the Prophet, to break his connection to the divine, to stop the message of Islam in its tracks. So he performs a ritual. He obtains a comb used by the Prophet and strands of his blessed hair. He takes the outer skin of a male date palm. He weaves these items together and he ties 11 knots. Each knot is a prison for a malicious jinn. Each knot is a chain meant to bind the Prophet's mind and spirit. He then takes this evil bundle and hides it in the depths of a well called Darwan, a well used by the community. The spell takes hold. The Prophet suffers. He is a man chosen by God, the most beloved of creation, and yet he is brought low by a piece of twisted magic. This is not a legend. This is a historical fact recorded in the most authentic collection of hadith in existence, Sahih al-Bukhari, in hadith number 5765. The Prophet was under a spell. Think about that for a moment. If even the Prophet, protected by God, could be affected, what chance do ordinary people have? But here is where the story turns. This attack was not the end. It was the beginning of our greatest defense. Allah sent the angel Jibreel to the Prophet. Jibreel revealed the source of the illness. He told the Prophet exactly where the spell was hidden, in the well of Darwan. The Prophet sent his companions, Ali, Zubair, and Ammar. They went to the well, drained its water, and there at the bottom they found it. The comb, the hair, the palm fiber, tied with 11 knots. They brought it to the Prophet. And then Allah revealed the cure. 2 short chapters from the Quran sent down specifically as a weapon against this darkness. Surah Al-Falaq, the dawn, and Surah An-Nas, mankind. 11 verses for 11 knots. The Prophet began to recite. With each verse he uttered, a knot on that cursed bundle untied itself. You can almost see it in your mind, the fibers loosening, the magic dissolving, the invisible chains shattering. As the final verse was recited, the final knot came undone. The Prophet stood up, cured. The darkness was lifted by the light of the Quran. This event is a cornerstone of faith for millions. It proves that the threat is real, but it also proves that the protection is more real, more powerful. It shows that the unseen war has a front line, and we have been given the ultimate manual for survival. And this is only the beginning. Because what happened in 7th century Arabia never stopped. The same battles are being fought today, in your city, on your street, in homes that look just like yours. Let us travel to the modern world. Let us look at the court records, the police reports, the newspaper headlines. In Saudi Arabia, in the year 2007, an Egyptian pharmacist named Mustafa Ibrahim was executed by beheading for the crime of practicing sorcery. The state took it that seriously. That same year, the Saudi religious police, the Mutawwa, made a grisly discovery in a cemetery in the port city of Yanbu. They unearthed 23 black magic tokens buried at the heads and feet of corpses. There were knives, written spells, and strange bundles. Someone was using the dead, violating graves, to power their curses. In 2008, a famous Lebanese television psychic named Ali Hussein Sibat came to Saudi Arabia to perform the Hajj pilgrimage. He was a star on a popular call-in show, giving predictions and advice. But the religious police arrested him. He was charged with sorcery, convicted, and sentenced to death. His sentence was later reduced to 15 years in prison after an international outcry. These are not rumors. These are legal cases with real names and real consequences. Now, let us go to North Africa. In the ancient cities of Fez and Marrakesh in Morocco, the practice of sorcery is an open secret. In the shadowy alleys behind the bustling markets, practitioners called Shuwawa set up their shops. They are consulted by thousands of people every year. A woman wants to make her husband stay faithful. A businessman wants to ruin his competitor. The rituals are dark. They use the blood of black chickens, dirt from graveyards, personal items stolen from the intended victim, like a piece of clothing or a photograph. A Pew Research Center study conducted a few years ago found that 78% of Moroccan Muslims believe in the evil eye or witchcraft. In neighboring Tunisia, the number is even higher, at 89%. That is nearly 9 out of every 10 people. This is not a small superstition. This is a deeply held belief that shapes lives and decisions. Now let us cross over to South Asia. In Pakistan and India and Bangladesh, the industry of black magic is worth billions of dollars. Practitioners called amils or peers operate from small villages and giant city complexes. They sell taweez, amulets, to desperate people. Most are simple pieces of paper with prayers folded into a leather or metal case and worn around the neck or arm. But many, perhaps most, are not what they seem. Islamic scholars who have opened and analyzed these taweez have found hidden invocations. They look like Arabic script, but they are often nonsense words or direct calls to specific jinn disguised as verses from the Quran. People pay huge sums of money thinking they are buying God's protection when they are actually inviting a devil into their lives. In Pakistan alone, 41% of people admit to using talismans or other charms for protection. That is tens of millions of people. The scale is staggering, but here is where it gets worse. Sometimes the jinn do not wait for an invitation. They attack on their own. In Malaysia and Indonesia, there have been repeated outbreaks of mass hysteria in schools. In one typical case, in a high school in a small town, a student suddenly started screaming for no reason. Then another, then another. Within minutes, an entire classroom of teenagers was convulsing on the floor, screaming, crying, claiming to see terrifying figures. The school had to be evacuated. Psychiatrists and religious officials were called in. The official diagnosis in case after case is jinn possession. The belief is that a single mischievous or evil jinn can trigger a wave of fear that spreads like a virus through a group of susceptible people. These are not isolated incidents. They are documented in medical journals and news reports across Southeast Asia. So we have the personal testimony of history's most important figure. And we have the cold, hard facts of the modern world. From the execution chambers of Saudi Arabia to the crowded markets of Morocco, from the billion-dollar industry of South Asia to the screaming classrooms of Malaysia. The evidence is everywhere. It is in the fear in a mother's eyes when her child suddenly falls ill. It is in the desperation of a man who has lost his wealth and does not know why. It is in the hidden knots buried in a well. The unseen war is not a metaphor. It is a daily reality for a huge portion of humanity. But this leads us to the most critical question of all. If the weapon used against the Prophet was the Quran itself, how exactly does it work? What is the mechanism? How can words on a page or sounds in the air become a shield against an enemy you cannot see? The answer is more profound and more powerful than you can possibly imagine. So we understand the power of the Quran as a shield. But to raise that shield, you must first recognize the attack. You must see the invisible wounds. For centuries, Islamic scholars have pieced together a map of these wounds, a list of signs so clear and consistent that they form a diagnosis. Think of it as a medical textbook for the soul. And the symptoms are not subtle. They creep into your life, into your home, into your very body. Let us walk through them one by one. Imagine a couple, deeply in love for years. Then, one morning, the husband wakes up and feels a revulsion so sharp it takes his breath away. He looks at his wife, the mother of his children, and feels nothing but cold, irrational hatred. There is no fight, no betrayal, no reason at all. This is not a marital problem. This is a classic sign of seher, of black magic specifically designed to destroy families. The great scholar Ibn al-Qayyim, in his book Prophetic Medicine, documented cases where love turned to poison overnight, all traced back to a buried spell. And this is only the beginning. Then there is the body itself. You feel a pain that has no origin. You go from doctor to doctor, from hospital to hospital, in Cairo or Karachi or Jakarta. Every test comes back normal. Your blood work is perfect. Your scans show nothing. Yet you are fading. You lose weight. You feel a constant fatigue that sleep cannot touch. Modern medicine has a term for it, psychosomatic illness. But in the realm of the unseen, it is often an occupation. Something else is living off your energy. But here is where it gets worse. The nights become a theater of terror. You close your eyes and you are chased by snakes, by black dogs, by swarms of spiders. You wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, night after night. In Islamic tradition, these animals, especially dogs and snakes, are frequently associated with the jinn. The nightmares are not random, they are messages. Then come the physical sensations that defy explanation. You feel something crawling under your skin, a prickling, a movement. You feel a twisting in your stomach, as if something is alive inside you. People describe it like a fetus kicking, but there is no pregnancy. The scholar Ibn Taymiyyah, who wrote extensively on jinn, described victims who could point to the exact spot under their skin where the entity resided. And then there is the smell. A foul, rotten odor clings to you or to a room in your house. You wash constantly, you clean everything, but the stench persists. It is the smell of the unseen world, a sulphurous sign of a malignant presence. Your own appearance begins to change. Dark, bruise-like marks appear on your skin without injury. Your face, once bright, takes on a grey, shadowed pallor. Your eyes become sunken. You look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back. But the most devastating signs are not physical. They are spiritual. You were once diligent in your prayers. You found peace in the ritual, in the connection. Now, you cannot bring yourself to make wudu. A heavy, invisible barrier stands between you and your prayer rug. You feel a deep aversion to reading the Quran, to even hearing its words. This laziness, this sudden disconnect from faith, is described by scholars as one of the primary goals of black magic, to sever your lifeline to Allah. The assault continues on your senses. You hear whispers when you are alone. You hear your name called from an empty room. You hear arguing or crying when no one is there. These are not hallucinations in the clinical sense. How died well? They are intrusions. Then there is the weight. As you try to sleep, especially during the night or in the late afternoon, a crushing pressure settles on your chest. It feels like a stone, like a person sitting on you. You struggle to breathe. In Arabic, this is known as al-kabt, and it is a direct attack by the jinn. For women, the attack often targets the very center of life. Menstrual cycles become chaotic, painful beyond any medical explanation. There is bleeding that will not stop, or pain that radiates with no cause. For men, it manifests as a sudden and complete inability to be intimate with their wives. There is no physical cause, no deficiency, only a mysterious barrier erected by magic. And then the world around you begins to collapse. Your business, once thriving, suddenly fails. Deals fall through at the last moment. Money vanishes. You face a string of bad luck so consistent it feels like a curse. Everything you touch turns to dust. This is not mere coincidence. It is a systematic dismantling of your livelihood. But of all the signs, there is one that scholars consider the most telling, the most definitive. It is the reaction to the words of Allah. When the Quran is recited near a victim of seher, especially powerful chapters like Surah al-Baqarah or Ayatul Kursi, the hidden enemy reveals itself. The person may convulse. They may scream with a voice not their own. They may cry uncontrollably or burst into violent, racking burps. They may vomit or fall into fits. What you are witnessing is the jinn inside them being burned by the divine words. It is a physical exorcism. I have seen footage from Ruqya clinics in Riyadh, from healing sessions in Indonesia. The reaction is immediate and terrifying. The renowned contemporary scholar Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif speaks of cases where simply playing a recording of the Quran would cause a person to claw at their own skin. The great Imam Ibn Taymiyyah himself would treat victims by reciting, and he documented their violent reactions as the jinn were expelled. This is not superstition. It is a consistent, observable phenomenon across the Muslim world, from the deserts of Mauritania to the islands of the Philippines. The symptoms are a language, a cry for help from a soul under siege. They tell a story of an invasion, of a home that is no longer your own. But knowing the signs is only the first step. It is like hearing the alarm bell ring. The real question, the urgent question, is, what do you do when the bell is ringing for you? So what do you do when the alarm bell is ringing in your own life? When the whispers in the dark feel real? When your home feels cold and your body feels like a prison? When everything you have seen and heard points to an enemy you cannot touch? This is the moment of truth, the moment where fear can swallow you whole. But here is where the light breaks through. Because Allah, in His infinite mercy, did not leave you defenseless in this unseen war. He did not create a threat and then abandon you to it. He gave you a manual, a weapon, a shield forged from divine light. That weapon is the Quran. This is not a metaphor. It is a literal, tangible, and proven spiritual defense system. And in these final moments, we will show you exactly how it works. We will show you how to turn on the lights and send every shadow running. Imagine you are in a pitch-black room and you hear something moving. Your heart pounds. Then you remember you have a flashlight in your pocket. You switch it on. The beam cuts through the darkness, and suddenly the monster is just a coat on a chair. The Quran is that flashlight, but it is so much more. It is a searchlight, a fortress, a cleansing fire, and here is how you use it. The first and most powerful tool is a single verse. It is called Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne. It is verse 255 of the second chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said something incredible about this verse. He said that whoever recites it at night, a guardian from Allah will stay with them, and no devil, no evil jinn will come near them until the morning. This is recorded in the most authentic book of Hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari. The Prophet called Ayatul Kursi the greatest verse in the entire Quran. Think about that. Out of over 6,000 verses, this one stands supreme for protection. Why? Because it describes the absolute power and sovereignty of Allah. It declares that He is the ever-living, the sustainer of all existence. Nothing happens without His knowledge. When you recite these words with understanding, you are announcing to every unseen entity that you are under the protection of the King of Kings. Their authority is a joke compared to His. It is like wrapping yourself in a cloak of pure divine energy. But the protection does not stop there. The Prophet also gave us 2 more verses from the same chapter. The last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 285 and 286. He said that whoever recites these 2 verses at night, they will be sufficient for him. Sufficient, that means they will be enough. They will cover you. They will be your barrier against all harm that night. These verses are a beautiful conversation between the believer and Allah. They are verses of faith, acceptance, and a plea for forgiveness and strength. Reciting them is like locking every door and window of your soul. Now, let us talk about the 2 chapters that were revealed as a direct counterattack against black magic. Surah Al-Falaq, the daybreak, and Surah An-Nas, mankind. Together they are called the Mu'awwidhatayn, the 2 chapters of seeking refuge. Their story is crucial. They were sent down at a specific time when the Prophet himself was targeted by a powerful spell. A Jewish man in Medina, along with his daughters, tied 11 knots in a cord and blew on them, hiding it in a well. The Prophet fell seriously ill. Then the angel Gabriel came with these 2 surahs. He told the Prophet to recite them. With each verse he recited, "A knot from that cord loosened." And with the final word, the Prophet stood up as if freed from a chain. The magic was completely destroyed. These surahs are the ultimate antidote. Surah Al-Falaq asks for protection from the evils of creation, from the darkness when it settles, from those who blow on knots, meaning the sorcerers themselves. Surah An-Nas asks for protection from the whisperings of the devils, from the jinn and mankind who whisper evil into hearts. The Prophet's wife, Aisha, reported that when he was sick, she would recite these surahs and blow over his body. He himself would do this when he was able. This practice is a legacy he left for every single one of us. This is the prescription. But a prescription is useless if you do not take the medicine consistently. And that brings us to the daily armor. The morning and evening adhkar, the remembrances of Allah. Islamic scholars from the time of the Prophet until today have stated that these daily practices are the greatest fortress a believer can have. They are specific prayers and verses you say after the dawn prayer, Fajr, and after the late afternoon prayer, Asri. A Muslim who does this consistently is like a person living inside an impenetrable castle. The devils watch from the outside, but they cannot find a way in. They cannot reach you. These remembrances include glorifying Allah, asking for His protection, and reciting short chapters like Surah Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas 3 times each. It takes only minutes. But in the unseen world, it builds a wall of light around you that lasts the entire day and the entire night. It is your daily spiritual hygiene. You shower to clean your body. This is how you clean and protect your soul. Now, for when the attack has already happened, for when the fortress has been breached, this is where we turn to Ruqya Sharia, the Quranic healing. This is the practice of reciting specific Quranic verses over a person who is afflicted by evil eye, magic, or jinn possession. The Prophet not only approved of this, he practiced it himself. He would recite over his family and companions. He taught them the words to use. This is a sanctioned, powerful form of exorcism, and history gives us a stunning example. The great scholar Ibn Taymiyyah, who lived in the 13th and 14th centuries, was a master of this. His students documented his encounters in his famous collection of rulings, Majmu' al-Fatawa. Ibn Taymiyyah would sit with a possessed person and begin reciting the Quran. The jinn inside the person would be forced to speak. It would beg and plead through the victim's mouth, asking for mercy, asking him to stop the recitation. Ibn Taymiyyah would command it in the name of Allah to leave, and it would, we have his own written accounts. This is not a myth from 1,000 years ago. This is a documented historical figure, a genius of Islamic law, personally confronting these entities using nothing but the words of the Quran. The reactions were violent. The afflicted would convulse, scream, their voices changing. But the outcome was always the same. The words of Allah proved stronger every single time, but perhaps the most chilling and hopeful story of all comes from a companion of the Prophet named Abu Hurairah. He was given the duty of guarding the charity food during the month of Ramadan. Night after night, he found the food diminishing, so he decided to stay awake and catch the thief. On the first night, he saw a shadowy figure taking the food. He caught it and said he would take it to the Prophet. The creature begged for mercy and promised not to return. Abu Huraira let it go. The next night, it happened again. He caught the same creature. Again it pleaded, and again he let it go. On the third night, he caught it once more. This time, the creature said something extraordinary. It said, "Let me go, and I will teach you words that will benefit you." Abu Huraira asked what they were. The creature, which was a shaitan, a devil, said this: "When you go to your bed, recite Ayatul Kursi from the beginning to the end. If you do that, a guardian from Allah will be appointed over you, and no devil will come near you until morning." Abu Huraira released it. The next day, he went to the Prophet and told him the whole story. The Prophet listened, and then he smiled. He said, "He told you the truth, even though he is a liar." Think about the power of that moment. The enemy itself, a lying devil, was forced to admit the supreme protective power of a verse from the Quran. It knew that this verse was its own weakness. It was confessing to the ultimate truth. This is the reality we must understand. Black magic is real. The Quran confirms it. The Prophet experienced it. History and countless lives testify to it. But here is the truth that every sorcerer fears. The truth that should make every believer stand tall. Their magic, no matter how powerful it seems, is nothing but a weak trick compared to the protection of Allah. Every spell has an expiration date. Every jinn can be defeated. Every sorcerer will answer to Allah on the Day of Judgment for their crime against His creation. And every single Muslim who holds on to the Quran, who prays their 5 daily prayers with presence of heart, who recites their morning and evening remembrances, who puts their complete trust in Allah alone, has absolutely nothing to fear from the unseen world. You are not a victim waiting to be targeted. You are a soldier equipped with divine weaponry. The war is real, but the victory is already promised. Because Allah Himself says in the Quran, in the 4th chapter, Surah An-Nisa, verse 76, "Indeed, the plot of Shaitan has ever been weak. His plans are flimsy. His power is an illusion. Your shield is the book of the Almighty. Your fortress is your faith. And your victory is in your submission to the one who created both you and the things that go bump in the night. So toast this book, turn off this screen, and do not live in fear. Live in certainty. The light is in your hands. All you have to do is turn it on." Watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to our channel for more. We bring you fascinating documentaries on history, civilization's mysteries, and the untold stories that shaped our world. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a new release. Until next time.